Wait. All right. Welcome, everybody. We're doing ticker talk this afternoon. This should be interesting. We're going to try something a little new. We'll get into that in a sec. But first, we'll just go through the usual thing. We'll fire through this disclaimer really quick because you guys have all seen it a million times. Everything we do here is for educational purposes only. We are not investment advisors and do not provide investment advice. All statements made here today are my own personal opinions and not to be considered advice to buy or sell any security. All trading and investment decisions are your own and done at your own risk. All right, now that we all know we're adults and can take responsibility for our own decisions, we can move on. I think everybody knows me. I'm Kevin. You can go back and watch the recording if you want to see this page. All right. Actually, before we get into this part here, what we're going to do in a couple of minutes is, and this was Marvin's idea, we're going to take a look at one of his charts. And the rest of you are welcome to send a link to a chart as well. It's really, really easy to do if you've got TradingView because you can just share it and then you could like DM it to me and then I can bring it up on here. If you're not using TradingView and want, have another platform that you want to share, I can always make you a co-host or whatever, or allow you to share your screen if you want to do it that way. If you're into sharing a chart, there's no pressure. You don't have to. But I thought when Marvin suggested this, I thought it was a really cool idea, so I figured we'd give it a try. But before we get into that, I want to go through a couple of charts that people asked for, so that I don't forget them. And these are charts I'm sure that you guys will be interested in as well. So the first one, the first one is for NS, and it is Celsius, and he says thinks it will run to 80. I think it might have got there today, actually. So let's take a look at that. If I can find my, there we go. All right. And actually, yeah, before we get into, we're going to get to that chart really quick, but anytime you guys have a question or anything, feel free to interrupt. Go ahead and unmute your mic if you want to ask a question, especially if we're talking about your ticker and everything. That'd be totally cool. But if we're not actually, if you're not asking a question or whatever, or talking about one of your tickers, let's please make sure our mics are muted. All right, so we're going to look at Celsius. And yeah, like I said, this one's for NS, and he says he thinks it's going to run up to 80. That seems reasonable, but it's got to get through 75 first. So yeah, let's just mark that. We'll mark his target on there, which is 80. Okay, so that's where he figures it's going to get to. I'm definitely seeing resistance on the way back up here at 75. So we'll get that marked in. It's pretty much bang on the money at 75, isn't it? We're very close to it. Interesting today. Notice how this had a good day, got right to that 200-day moving average and got sold right there. So that's interesting. I'm not surprised. This has I guess actually the short interest isn't quite as high as I thought it would be, but there are a fair number of shorts, and that 200-day moving average is definitely a level that the shorts would try and defend. Let's take a real quick look intraday and see how that did, because this sort of action is not what we're seeing in the markets overall today. Where's my intraday chart gone? There we go. Okay, so we are looking at, let's actually make this a 5-minute chart. We'll just look at the chart in the center here as a 5-minute chart, and we can see that this moved up really strongly at the beginning of the day, much like the rest of the market, and sort of grinded higher most of the day. Topped out around, what time was that? 1 o'clock, actually 1 o'clock on the nose. That topped out, hitting that 200-day moving average, and sort of bled out a little bit the rest of the day. So that's, I mean, this isn't a terribly bullish price action when it just sort of continues to sell off the rest of the day like that. And then it leaves, it leaves a candle on the daily chart that looks like that. It reaches up and then got sold. So this is interesting. This really needs to reclaim this quickly. The more time it spends either not reclaiming this or even pulling back even worse would definitely not be good. We don't want to see this pull back into this consolidation range here. I'll just sort of draw this in really quick. So yeah, I mean, obviously we have a little bit of a consolidation that it broke out of. So we don't want to see a pullback into here. Want to see that keep moving. And as long as the market behaves, this should have an easier time going up and down. If the market starts pulling back, though, this is going to pull back as well. So that is all I've got on that one. DTG, Disguise This Guy, was asking for Costco. And so Costco has obviously had a really rough time. The big gap down here was Target's earnings. That didn't help this at all. But it has bounced strongly since then. So we're going to come down to about 405, I think it was. Yeah, 407. And we've closed today at 465. Now, this had earnings after hours. And I know that it pulled back a little bit. So why don't we take a quick look at the earnings? We'll mark in where it is now, if there's any big change. So here we are, 5-minute chart. And look at that. See, it did pull back. It pulled back quite a bit on these earnings. Now, they beat a little bit. Oh, perfect. Thanks, Marvin. These guys beat both on the top and bottom line. And, they're year on year. I was just mentioning this to Marvin or some of you guys earlier. And it's just posted that their total revenue for the third quarter rose to 52.6 billion from 45.28 billion a year earlier. That's a huge increase in revenue for a company like Costco that's very mature and you wouldn't expect to grow at a rate like that. I mean, what is that, 17% or something? That's huge. So to see a pullback on that is quite surprising. Now, it's definitely fair to say that this had already priced in, fantastic growth. This stock has been going up for a long time. And, I mean, COVID's not even a blip on this chart, right? They just sailed right through the whole COVID crash. It was, during, for COVID, it went sideways a little bit and then started going back up again, right? We've had quite a pullback and bounced or back into or got back into this gap today. Whoops. That was from right there. Got back into this gap today, but I suspect we've fallen out of the gap. Where's the top of that, or the bottom of that gap was 460? Where are we right now? Yeah, 450. We're at 454 right now. So we're down. Yeah, we're down near the bottom of this candle, the bottom, near-ish the bottom of today's range. So that's not ideal. So it'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. Do buyers step up in this? Do buyers think, oh, okay, I've got a second chance here, and buy the pullback, or do they wait for it to come down lower? I kind of suspect we might need to fill the gap we put in today. So we should draw that in. So we've got this gap, another gap right here that we're coming down to, and maybe we either touch that gap or fill that gap and then start to turn up. I would be interested in buying this as it turns up from filling this gap. I really want to do leaps again, but the implied volatility is really high. The options are really expensive. Now that earnings have passed, a lot of that should bleed out. A lot of that implied volatility should evaporate in the early hours tomorrow. So maybe there will be an opportunity here. But yeah, I think this is kind of at the moment it's really hard to say. I think the market needs to decide what it wants to do with this, because the market doesn't seem entirely sure. You know, when we look at this action after hours, it's surprising it pulled back this much, and it's trying to give, tried to take some back. So tough call where this will go from here. Okay, so that's it for that. Now Marvin has sent me a chart. So yeah, so the deal is we're going to take a look at Marvin's chart. I will bring that up on my screen. Oh, okay. Actually, I guess I need to. Oh, weird. Should have just opened that in my browser and it didn't for some reason.
Let me know if I need to recopy it or recopy the link.
Sorry?
That's like, let me know if I need to resend the link.
No, I've got it now.
Okay.
I wonder if I should make a copy of this. Actually, no, I don't think I need to. All right, so we are looking at Marvin's. Whoops, we're looking at Marvin's chart here of what are we looking at? Oh, star bulk. Okay, so Marvin, do you want to talk to us about your chart?
Yeah, I can. So I decided to kind of put, I guess, like EMA. There was an indicator that had a couple EMAs along with a simple moving average. So, I used that. But what I kind of did was, I guess I should probably take that off first, or probably should mute that. But what I did was just kind of drew some support and resistance lines in the yellow. And then, and I started to kind of, I guess, notice this around $30 or so. And I was like, oh, it looks like it's going to move up. So, I made some resistance and support based off where I saw it like touch in terms of that support. And then I kind of put that support resistance to me. It was like, well, in the event it starts to pivot the other way, maybe it'll hold there. And then I put, the resistance piece, which I think is starting to break through, but, we'll see. And then from there, it had a big gap and fall way back in 2015, but mapping out the levels a little bit before then, seemingly that gap, I would imagine it would hit those price targets before, again, that $40 or so, $40, $50, $40, $45, I think, was kind of like the last time, and it was up that way.
Okay.
Serving as a type of resistance and support there. I put the BDI index on there because I think I was reading the article and they were, it kind of similarly moved, I guess, because it was running the Baltic dry index. So because it moves dry goods, I believe.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then just to kind of follow along, and then there's the MACD, the RSI, and then the average shoe range at the bottom.
Okay.
And then I also have this indicator called TC, which is like time frame continuity in terms of seeing how it's moving on weekly, monthly, daily, and yearly, without necessarily having to switch to those charts, but I do anyway. In terms of those time frames, but I do anyway. So
okay, cool.
Oh, and then also, sorry, I see the blue dotted lines are just something I drew to see if it was forming a pattern, which I think it is, and it's starting to break out of that, going up to the upside possibly.
Yeah, it's definitely been building a nice base there on the weekly. Almost even sort of a bull flag, but it didn't really have much run up into it, right?
Right.
It's really just more of a consolidation, and then you've got this sort of, it starts to rise up a little bit, in the last few weeks of this consolidation, and is now trying to break out. So yeah, that's really cool. I mean, it's cool that you've highlighted that. And showing a little bit of a the beginnings of what may very well be a new uptrend. So yeah, that looks good. Yeah, it's interesting. I like that you plotted this against the Baltic Dry Index. There does, this, I guess there's some correlation you can definitely see, um, the stock price on, this stock price definitely started to rising kind of before, right at the beginning of the Baltic Dry Index rising, and rose definitely more steeply. So there is some correlation here, but not completely correlated, right?
Right.
But it's definitely worthwhile knowing what's going on with the Baltic Dry Index, considering that this is a shipping company and everything. And this Baltic Dry Index does look like it's, kind of breaking out of its little sort of consolidation here. So obviously you want to see that continue higher, but yeah, this company is, Starbucks was definitely outperforming its index, or that index of, shipping rates, right?
Right. Yeah, I guess I probably should have looked for I guess an index with some shipping competitors probably. I don't know. I think I read an article and it was like talking about it. And that's what triggered the BDI overlap like that. So
yeah, well, I mean, the BDI it's also something that macro guys look at a lot to sort of get a sense for the health of the economy and everything. I think that that's been difficult to use since COVID. Because just the whole supply chain around the world has sort of gotten itself out of whack, right?
Right.
So some of the relationships that you would normally expect with this index don't really work right now.
Got you. Oh, also too, I put the volume indicator to see the volume, and as you see, like a lot of volume has picked up. Over the past year tremendously.
Yes. For sure.
So that's to me another indicator that I think once it really finishes consolidating or doing what I think it's going to do, I think it's going to go up, and I think it's going to keep pushing.
Yeah.
And they have a nice dividend return too. So I think that's how I found it, through Fidelity's like stock screener, and they pulled up some kind of way. So, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. So yeah.
Yeah, these should be paying a good dividend right now. These shipping companies should be making lots of money. If they're not making money now, then they're definitely doing something wrong.
Yeah. Like last dividend payout was like $2 a share, I think.
Okay.
And then they just announced the next dividend payout, which is in June, will be $1.65. So
I mean, that's like 5% a quarter. I'm assuming they're paying quarterly.
Yeah, they are.
So I mean, that's about 5% a quarter, I guess, eh?
Yeah, I think so. Let me go back and I have to go back and pull it up because I had the page pulled up too.
Yeah, that's a good strong dividend. You know what? Actually, I can bring this up in eSignal, and it'll show us what the dividend is.
Okay.
On I can't actually edit this. Did you know in TradingView, you can add labels for the dividend and earnings onto your charts?
I knew that, or at least, I see that. I guess I don't know if it's on. I think it's on the daily. If you do the daily chart, it has the earnings and the dividend.
That's right. Yeah.
Symbols on it, but yeah, I don't know how you make it populate on the weekly or the monthly, or to like stay on there. But yeah.
What is that?
When you help me, I'll be
SBLK. Yeah, so here's the dividend it's about to pay. So when is that? It's going to be paid out on June 2nd?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's $1.65. Just had earnings. And they had a nice beat.
Yeah.
Nice beat on earnings, half decent beat on revenue. So yeah, you can put these little these labels on here. I've had them on here for so long. See if I can remember when to do that. But I think it is, if you go here to symbol.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
Or no, sorry, events.
Okay.
At the bottom of your chart settings, you go to events, and then you can pick which ones to put onto the chart.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, look at, on the daily chart, this looks good as well, right? And, you can see that we're kind of breaking out of a base. There's that consolidation you noticed on the weekly. There's that sort of new early uptrend here. It's, it's making new highs, new lows, or sorry, higher highs, higher lows. Looks good. I mean, this is in a short-term uptrend, and there's nothing here that says that shouldn't continue. I was saying, if you look at the volume here, and you didn't really see this so much on the weekly chart, but notice the volume is starting to increase as you're starting to move out of this zone that it's been in, right? So if we were to draw, there we go. Yeah, we can just draw that like that. So, that was sort of our consolidation zone, right?
Right.
And notice the volume as we start to move up into the top half of that and then out of it, this volume increasing. So that's, that's a really good sign as well. What's not awesome is just the tiniest little bit of bearish RSI divergence down
Right.
here. You
Okay.
see that? You see how we've made higher high,
Right.
than this high, but the RSI basically only got up to, or maybe not even quite as high, just barely, than than that high, right?
Right.
So we would like to see improved momentum there. I'm not too worried about that, but it is definitely, if you're looking for a reason to be a little cautious, there's a good reason right there, that RSI.
Got you. That's helpful.
But yeah, it is, I mean, it's behaving well off of the 21-day moving average. It's cut through the 50-day moving average a few times, but then bounced back up again. So yeah, I mean, it's behaving pretty much like a stock in an uptrend that has taken a little bit of a break and now needs to, wants to go higher. And it's done all of this in a really tough market.
It has. That's what kind of surprised me. I was just like, man, if only I would have found this in February, that'd have been good.
Yeah, that's the thing, so how much does it move? Look at, I mean, this consolidation here is much like this one back here. I mean, this one back here is huge. I'm gonna draw it from here though, right? Very similar to this one.
Right.
And you had a breakout, you ran higher and started consolidating again. So maybe you could measure the breakout of this to get an idea of how far that might go. That might give you an idea. But yeah, I see no reason this wouldn't continue to go higher unless the world suddenly starts to fall into recession. I mean, we know the economy is starting to slow just a tiny little bit. If that gets worse and becomes a bit of a worldwide issue, then that could be a problem for this company. Because then shipping would slow down. If demand for goods slows down, then demand for this company's services would slow down.
Right.
But there's no reason to believe that we're falling into a deep recession right now. At least the evidence isn't there yet. That could be coming, and it's something we definitely need to be cautious about and watch out for. But I think that's the only thing that would hurt this company right now.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. So that was cool. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun having your chart to take a look at, and seeing how and good for everybody too. I mean, everybody looks at my charts all the time. I think it's good, for people to see how other people do their charts, and it's yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, looks good. Good stuff. Thanks, Marvin.
No, thank you.
So all right, let's go back. Let's go back here. So if anybody else has any tickers, or if anybody else wants to share a chart, if you're using TradingView, like I said, I mean, all you got to do is hit that share button and then copy a link and drop a link into the chat here. It's the easiest way to do it. Or we could, you can share your screen with us here as well in the meeting. But other than that, if anybody has any tickers they'd like to take a look at, just you know what to do. I mean, drop them into the chat or unmute and tell me what your ticker is. Tell me what you think about it. Are you long or short? Are you looking to get in? You're looking to add to an existing position. So while we're waiting to see if anybody drops any tickers in there, I'm going to take a look at one that I pointed out on the weekend, or maybe a couple that I pointed out on the weekend. So this one, GOGO, I pointed out in the video is, looking, I noticed that this was really sort of outperforming the market, much like the one that, that Marvin showed us. This is also outperforming the market. And those are the stocks you want to be, you kind of want to look for, right? When we're in a market like this. And it built, it built this long sort of triangular base here. And then recently, after breaking out, built another base. And I mentioned in the weekend video that we should watch this base and watch for a breakout. Now I bought this on Monday, on this breakout Monday. Can't remember if I bought it on Monday or Tuesday. Anyway, one of these 2 days, I bought that breakout. I didn't like the first part of what happened yesterday when that big pullback, and you can see where I had my stop, right where this little red line here is. So I almost got stopped out, although I was watching it, and I actually paused my stop because I thought, you know what, this is down too much already. I'm not going to get wicked out. I'm not going to let that happen, right? I know you're laughing at me, Marvin, but this is a valid thing to do. As long as you're going to be responsible about it. If that thing had closed, if that had gone, if that had gone down and stayed down and was going to close down there, then I would have got out. I would have stopped myself out. But I did not want to get wicked out because it was falling quickly. And I'm just like, no, this is just like this, this looks like some of these other candles where it just bounced right back up again. So anyway, it didn't even hit where my stop was. It came so close though, came within a few pennies and bounced. So I guess I put the stop in the right place. Eh? And then today we gapped up and had a really nice move up. So it's a little late to get in now, I think. It would have been fine to chase this earlier to buy that gap, especially once it had moved above Tuesday's candle. You definitely could have got in there, but getting in now is tough, even though I think this has a long way to go. I think there's lots of room here for this to move higher. The next resistance level, I mean, maybe there's some resistance here at 21, but the real resistance is going to be here. And we should probably get that line on here in case anybody's going to follow along with this. So we're going to watch into this, 23.5 area. Is somewhere we're really going to watch for resistance, and maybe there's, a little bit of minor resistance at this 21 level.
Market data connection lost. Market data connection reestablished.
Sorry, my trading platform is still open and talking to me. Can you guys hear that?
Yes.
Let me close that down.
Reestablish this connection.
Yeah. All right. So this is definitely turning into an interesting trade. It's playing. It's finally breakout finally seems to be playing out the way I expect. I've been having a lot of trouble with breakouts for a little while now. They just haven't been working. So it's nice to see one kind of, behave nicely. So that one's GOGO. Some other stocks that I mentioned over the weekend were some of the solar stocks. So this is TAN. And I thought on the weekend, we might see a little pullback and then go. But it did pull back for a day, or a couple of days, right? It didn't pull back very deep at all. It pulled back to the 21-day moving average. Here, let me get rid of this orange line here. Pulled back to the 21-day moving average, touched it twice, and then bounced off of that. Got through this, kind of former downtrend line. Got through this resistance at 68. Got through there nicely today. That's closed right around the 50-day moving average. So that's looking good for this. It's looking good for the solar space because this was a bit of a bull flag as well that had drawn in. Earlier on the weekend when I mentioned it, it didn't really look like a bull flag yet. But that definitely matured into a bull flag over the course of the week, and that's broken out today. And some of the other stocks in that space, I think I mentioned SunPower. That's SPWR. That hasn't actually really broken out yet. So if you kind of I mean, it's sort of halfway broken out, and it's got a little bull flag too. So if this continues to go tomorrow, or this space goes tomorrow, this should keep moving as well. And maybe you can get in here. I'm not investing advice or anything, but it doesn't look too late to get into this one. CSIQ is another one in that space that I watch. And that one hasn't really gone yet. Now this is a much messier looking bull flag, and there's a lot of volatility in here. So this is a little scary. You know, to see the big moves up and then an inside day and another inside day. Yeah, this is a slightly unusual price action. So yeah, I think that's all that I was talking about on the weekend, I believe. Actually, I should. Let's see. SunPower go. Oh, Palantir. We're talking about Palantir. Oh, Run. Run is another one of the solars. We should take a quick look at that. Yeah, look at that. Nice looking bull flag there. And broke out of that bull flag today. Didn't really run a ton. A little bit of light volume. So maybe there's still time to get in. If this market, you know, takes off tomorrow as well and has another good day tomorrow, this is probably going to move nicely. I like this. I like the look of this better than CSIQ. So I think you know, if you're going to play this space, best looking ones to me anyway are Run and SunPower. So Sunrun, RUN, and SunPower, SPWR. The other one we looked at in the weekend video is Palantir, and I haven't actually looked at this since because I'm not terribly interested in that company. All right, so since I mentioned this on the weekend, I was talking about obviously this consolidation here. It broke out down, bounced right at that former downtrend line, and went back up again, and now it's back up into this consolidation. You know what I say about from failed moves, right? Because you know, this was a bull flag. The bull flag kind of failed, and then it quickly moved back into the flag. That's interesting, because you know, they say from failed moves come fast moves. So this failure to continue to break down is the failed move, right? And then moving back up. So this could actually make a run at least to the top of this range. And you know, there's a dollar in that. $1 on a stock that's only at $8.50. That's a nice little trade. You know, you probably only got to be in for a day or and a half to get that buck. So there could be something here, and I've got to remember to keep an eye on this tomorrow because it looks like it's ready to go. All right, that's all I've got for following up on stuff I talked about on the weekend. I see Casey Dots is looking to add to Microsoft, but not sure if it's stable yet. I don't know, man. I think you're going to get the blue screen of death on this one. Asking Microsoft to be stable. Sorry about that. I just couldn't resist. Yeah, I really don't know if Microsoft is stable yet, though. It's had some kind of poor price action, you know, for Microsoft. You would expect better out of it. But let's get this chart marked up because you know it's Microsoft, so it's in a monster uptrend. But you know, I mean, depending on where you draw these lines from, obviously it's, you know, if we go right from the bottom down here and you maybe attach that to there, and you know, so you have accelerating uptrends in this, you know, over a decade basically, or more. Let's just draw that to that one. Okay, and we're looking at a weekly chart right now, by the way. So you know, the uptrend just sort of continues or has continued to accelerate for quite some time. You know, and then we had the COVID pullback. And it looks like, you know, we're coming down near to testing that line, that trend. Oh, actually, let me adjust this one. That's better. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that looks a lot better. So we've come very close to testing this this trend line that, that's been intact since where are we looking at here? Middle of 2016. So that's a very mature trend. No reason to think that this is going to come down and break that line. It is looking like it's trying to roll up here. And this is a 100-week moving average right here. So let's go back to the daily now that we've got. Actually, let's get some support levels in off this weekly as well while we're here. So let's get a worst case support level down here. Where is that? Yeah, right at 200. We've got another level right there, and we should probably have a level there. Okay. Now we'll move to the daily. All right, so you can see just below where we are, we've got all these lines that we've drawn in from the weekly chart. You've got that trend line. I wonder though if we should tweak this line up a little bit. I kind of, you know what? I'm gonna draw both in. I like this line better than the higher one, but the higher one seems to be the one that it's kind of working off of or worked off earlier in the week or last week. Yeah, okay. All right. Whoops. There we go. Okay. So yeah, you can see it bounced off this, 246-ish area recently. Now, what do we have for resistance on the way back up? Obviously, we've got something right here. And that sort of goes back to that gap right there, doesn't it? We're going to have some resistance probably in about here. All right, that's enough lines for now. So the question is, looking at add, is it stable yet? It does look to be stabilizing. It does look to be putting in a bottoming pattern. And it did bounce in an area where we have a fair bit of support below. Now, today it moved right up into the 21-day moving average, and it stalled there. It could very easily cut through that tomorrow. But we do have to be aware that, all of its moving averages are declining. It's below all these declining moving averages. And it's coming into a resistance area again. So I think that, and we are in a bear market. I think that what I would want to see on this, I think you've been around long enough that you probably know, I'm going to say, I want to see it come up into that resistance and hang out there for a bit and then take off. That's what I'd like to see happen with this if I were looking to buy this, and then I would buy that breakout. Because when it comes into here, or if tomorrow is a bearish day, this could very easily roll over again and come down and test these lows again. We're seeing a lot of this kind of bottoming pattern going on right now, and we've seen it before. What's going on right here is kind of familiar to what happened back here, right? And it didn't take long for that rally to fail and lead into this, this downtrend that we've been in. This is definitely bullish action. This is the kind of thing we want to see. But if we look at the SPY, for instance, we're going to see that the SPY looks similar. Zoom in a little bit, we came down, we've put in kind of a double or triple bottom here, and we've started to move up. This orange line is one that I drew on the weekend when we were looking at these charts. And again, I said, look at it, if we're gonna rally here, what would be really cool is if SPY came up, stalled out a little bit of resistance, and then had a minor pullback, to this 400 level, nice support, and then took off. That would be ideal for SPY, and the same sort of thing goes for Microsoft. Let's go up into that resistance, hang out for a couple of days, and then move through it. because it's already had a nice move up into here. It's already expended some energy to get up here. And also notice it's done it on declining volumes. That's not ideal either. So I think the question is, no, it hasn't proven it's stable yet. We need to see some more proof, but we're getting close. We're getting close. Hopefully that's helpful, Casey. All right. What's next? For Ken. All right. Ken would like to have a look at LC, looking to open a position. All right. Ah, yes. Lending Club. Not sure if I should even keep this gap, that former gap on the chart. It is kind of acting as resistance a little bit, but it's sort of messing things up too. Put that off there. So yeah, Lending Club, you know, I mean, had that nice uptrend. Oh, that's right. These guys have been, yeah. For some reason, I keep thinking these guys were a D-SPAC, but they've been around for a long time. So let's go back and see. I think we can get, yeah, we can get rid of these Fibonacci's as well. Just cleaning things up a little bit on the chart here, because I guess it's been a while since we looked at this. All right, there's a level here we want to. Levels from back. Look at that. That one. That could be an important level. That one. You know what? Let's make that look more important. There we go. All right. So that's our big weekly view on this. It's, you know, basically been in a downtrend since the day it started, and it had this nice post-COVID move up, but you know, it's pulled back. But it's come into, you know, the support level it's come into around the $12 area should be fairly strong. You know, from a weekly standpoint, though, it hasn't really proved that it's ready to move up. Let's take a look at the MACD, because I like looking at the MACD on a weekly chart. I find that it aligns really nicely with the fundamentals. And see, the MACD is flattened right out here. We'd like to see that turn up. You know, we've kind of got, a bit of a, I want to zoom right in. Yeah, so it's just like right on top of each other. You know, once the MACD line starts moving up, you know, that will indicate a change of trend. But on this one, I'd probably like to see, you know, that blue line at least get above the 0 line here on the MACD to really prove that it's ready to go here. So that's the weekly. Nothing really there saying, hey, it's time, it's ready to go. And, you know, on the daily, I'm not really seeing anything that's saying, hey, it's time, it's ready to go. You know, you can call this a double or triple bottom, but look back here. You certainly could have called that a double or triple bottom, right? And we've still come down a little bit lower from that. We've yet to make a higher low even, and certainly haven't made a higher high. So this is still firmly in a downtrend. The trend is slowing for sure. I mean, the downside momentum is definitely slowing. You could even argue that, you know, we've got a little bit of an RSI divergence here. So that's slightly bullish. I think what we need to see here is very, very much like with Microsoft, right? We need to kind of see it come up into this major resistance and then see if it can get through. If it can get through that, you know, I'd be all over that. The problem is, I mean, that's $2 away from almost $3 away from where we are now, right? Are you willing to be that patient? If not, you know, maybe a buying opportunity to front run a little bit of this. Maybe it breaks out above the 50-day moving average, or it even breaks out above, you know, that pair of highs right there where it had an issue today. You know, if it can get above that level and above this 50-day moving average, that would be like, you know, a place where you could aggressively start a position. But I think the best way to do this, you know, if you want to be a lot more conservative and really want some proof, is just like in Microsoft, just like that, consolidate right under resistance and then break through. Because you've seen what's happened a number of times when we come up into this level, right? We come up into that level and it pushes it back. We come up into that level. I mean, this one was a no-brainer what was going to fail there. I mean, big gap up on earnings, so, you know, stalls right at that level and starts to push back. So, you know, any movement up here into here, especially if this movement is quick, like if this happens over the next, say, 2 days, that it moves up into that resistance, it's going to fail there. So you want it to just stall out there and rest for a little bit, then go through. That's what I'd be looking for if I was looking to buy this. Or, you know, maybe another retest. If this does sort of pull back here and then starts to move back up again, this supports yet again, and you get a real triple bottom on this, that might be an indication that you could buy once it's pulling away from down here. And again, assuming that the market is looking somewhat bullish. So that, I think, hopefully that was helpful, Ken. When you say NASDAQ, are you saying this is on NASDAQ or no, this is on New York. So do you want to look at the NASDAQ?
No, sorry, Kevin. I meant I want to take a look at the NASDAQ chart.
So NDAQ?
Yeah, and then.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, I meant the index.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, sorry, the index.
Okay. Did you know that NASDAQ itself, the
Yeah,
company?
company, yeah, I knew that too. Yeah, that's why earlier I saw 150. I was like, wait, that doesn't look right.
All right. So you want to basically look at the Qs.
Yeah, look at the Qs.
Okay. We can look at. I mean, we can look at. Yeah, I can look at the index if you want. I usually look at the Qs though. I mean,
Yeah.
The Qs, you get volume and everything, right?
Right.
Okay. So what do we got? I mean, we know what this looks like on a weekly. We'll really quick look at that. You know, big uptrend rolling over, right? Kind of almost a head and shoulders going on here on the weekly. I think I might actually draw that in on a day when we get to the daily. Actually, no, I might as well just draw that in now. It's going to be something like that. It's not the cleanest looking head and shoulders, but it is definitely there. So if we were to take a measurement on that, we don't really want to because it's going to be terrifying, I think. So from the top of the head down to the neckline, that's only actually 15%. That's not that bad. And from the breakdown point, so yeah, that target's down here, right at the 200-week moving average, and corresponds with this little pivot right here. So I'll draw that in as a pivot, and we can use that as our target for that head and shoulders. Yeah, 260. Okay. Now, this is definitely not something I want to see happen because, you know, when we get onto a daily chart, that's going to look like a long way down. I guess actually considering where we've come from, it's not that much farther, is it? But, you know, we don't want to go and be testing this area down here. So let's hope this head and shoulders pattern fails. And again, you can see how messy this one is, right? And it's a fairly, the neckline is fairly steep, and we generally don't like to see that. All right, so enough of the head and shoulders. What have we got going on? So we've bottomed out, sort of made a messy bottom, but notice how there's lots of buying wicks here as it bottoms, and you know, it's fairly volatile. That's actually a good sign. I mean, that is a sign of a bottom. Oh yeah, I had it on pivot. I want to get this pivot here. Okay, so we've come into this 300 level today. We've got a downtrend line there. We've got, you know, this major resistance from the past. How far back does that go? Yeah, it goes back over to here. This was in 2020, summer of 2020, when it, formed that resistance level. Stalled out there, really needs to get through this tomorrow, I think. This is one that I don't want to see take a break yet. I would much rather see this get through here and these resistance levels, and if it does it, it's probably going to do it quite strongly, and get up into this level before it takes a break. It'd be really nice to see another good day out of this. Maybe 2 days up into here, then we can take a break. Then the market will really be ready for a break, and people will go, yeah, it deserves a break. Look how far we've come. It deserves a break. And they're not going to freak out that it stops and stalls out at resistance here and just sell and have another one of these big moves down. So that's what I'd like to see. We'll find out tomorrow, right? I mean, this is a cluster of resistance in here. There's a lot of stuff going on right here that could stall this out. So we'll have to see. But yeah, my ideal situation, we get up into this 318 level and then go sideways for a few days. We do that, I'm going to get really bullish. If we roll over tomorrow and start selling off hard, I'm going to have to be very bearish. So that's where I am. That's where I am on the NASDAQ.
Got it. Thanks, Kevin.
That makes sense to you, Ken? Ken, do you agree? Do you have any?
It rolls over tomorrow. It might test the 270, right?
If it breaks down?
Yeah, if it breaks down, it might test the 270, right? That's the next.
Yeah, that's the next level. I mean, well, really, the next level is that pivot at 280.
Oh, 280. Yeah.
And then the one below that is like the 270-ish. I've got it as 267 and a half. That would definitely be an area we'd be watching. But yeah, that is definitely an area, the 270 to 267 and a half, which is sort of off that pivot and this little support and resistance down here. Yeah. And then below that, like I said, you've got that head and shoulders measures out to 260.
Yes, tomorrow's a Friday, so I don't know. I get this gut feeling that tomorrow might be a day where people sell off because we have a long weekend too, right? We're off Monday, so.
We've had, I believe, now 2 good Fridays in a row, right?
I don't remember last Friday. I think it was a bad Friday.
This is Friday. This hammer candle.
Yeah, this hammer. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, it opened way up there. It went way down. It got ugly.
Yeah, it got ugly. I remember last Friday. Yeah.
And then bounced back really nicely.
Okay.
Okay. And then the Friday before that, but I mean, it still was a red candle. Although it looks like it closed right where it opened. And then the Friday before that, was it? Where was it? This one.
It's a green one. Yeah.
Right here, right into that same level. So that was a Friday there. Another good day, right? So we've had some fairly bullish looking Fridays.
Okay.
But I mean, you do bring up a good point. After we've had a couple of really strong days, there's definitely going to be profit taking at some point tomorrow. There's going to be people probably early. There's going to be a little bit of a pullback. People who are kind of like, oh, it's Friday. I've got a good profit here. I got to get out of this before everybody else does. And that could start a little bit of a run for the exit sort of early in the day. Right. And then, definitely sort of later in the day, in the last somewhere in the last hour, if it's a good day and it's been moving up all day, you're definitely going to see some selling in that last hour. As people are closing out positions for the weekend and everything. But I think what we saw I think if we zoomed in on these Fridays, I'm not going to do that now, but if you went and took a look at a 15-minute chart or something to zoom in on these Fridays, I think you will find that in the last 15 minutes of both of those Fridays that it was fairly strong. Because I remember being a little surprised by that.
Got it.
When I was watching as it happened.
Yeah. So I wasn't too sure if people would want to hold over a long weekend too, because a lot can happen over the weekend. So, yeah.
Oh, right. It's Memorial Day on Monday, isn't it?
Thinking too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's definitely going to be a negative psychology thing going on with that,
right?
With holding into the long weekend. So, but season most long weekends are actually bullish. if you were to buy on the close on Friday and hold through Monday, I think you'd find that would usually be a winner, a winning trade. But
Can
I'm
I
not
ask a
sure
question?
how that applies in a bear market.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question in terms of the psychology piece as well as we're talking about it? In terms of the end of the month,
Yeah.
would that have? Do you think that will have a sell-off factor with that as well, since we're leaning into a long weekend? And
Right. So the last day of the month generally tends to be volatile. But so the last day of the month isn't until Tuesday. All right. So
got you.
the reason the last day of the month is volatile is because institutions and hedge funds, anybody who basically has to report to the public or has people they need to report to, like an institution or a pension fund or something like that, or a family office, they have to do these month-end reports and they show the positions that they're in. And they like to do window dressing for that. So they may close out some positions that hadn't done well. They may want to buy some positions that they think will make them look better. You get a lot of these sort of games going on the last day of the month. And then the first day of the month is usually seasonally a very bullish day. The first day of the month is almost always green. So yeah, for the beginning of next week, we have some volatility to look forward to on Tuesday, and then we've got probably a Wednesday being a bullish day. So yeah, it's going to be potentially a couple of bumpy days, but from what we've seen today, there's no reason to believe that we wouldn't at least try and have an update tomorrow. But as we know, who knows what could happen, the global macro overnight, who knows what could happen. So we just kind of got to, when we wake up, look and see what the world is doing today and see how we're going to deal with it. All right, let's move on from that. So is thinking about adding to Disney. Yeah, I've been thinking about adding to Disney too, but every time I think about it,
keep falling.
I remember the times that I thought about adding to Disney. I think here and here. And then it's like, once this happened, I'm not adding to Disney anymore.
Oh, wow.
So, is this time different? Yeah, you can see I'm a little negatively biased here. So, I've got a little bit of PTSD from those ads. Okay. It's so far, it's supporting nicely at that level, right? And then we've got sort of our last line in the sand down here in around 90. And, I think we talked before maybe about how this level here, this 100-ish area should definitely support. That's almost the last line of defense. That if that doesn't support, it's like you kind of want nothing to do with this thing. So it's trying to support, it's trying to put that bottom in. It's got that messy kind of, buying wick sort of bottom that so many other things have, right? You've heard me talking about this a couple times already today. And it's got a lot of work to do. So far, this is a half decent looking bottom, but it's got to just sort of move away from here if it's going to be a bottom. I suspect that what's going to happen in this, and is going to happen with a lot of stocks that are kind of looking like this, is they need to put in a lot more sideways action. And part of that sideways action could be going up to here, right? But I think that this level here, where I've got that Fibonacci level, what is that? This sort of, this 105 level, this could come into play again, even if we go up here. And this 100 level might come into play again. So is this the time to be going in? I kind of don't think so. I think there's still a lot of risk in this. it doesn't look like it's going to be taken off anytime soon. It looks like it's going to be going sideways for a while, like months probably. So, but I mean, if that changes, if we see a change of character, then sure, maybe it's time to get in. But I don't know. I don't see it here. All right. The fib tool. Yeah, you know, the fib is like, I kind of have a love-hate, relationship with the fib tool, Marvin, because in a way it's kind of like magic numbers. And yet it works. And I think it, it works because a lot of people use it. And some of those levels, and my favorite fib level, and it's not actually even a fib level, is the 50% retracement. And that's not a Fibonacci number, but it's on everybody's Fibonacci. And it's the level that probably works best out of all of them. But yeah, you'll find that there are times when it is like bang on perfect, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. This thing works so well. And there's other times that it just completely ignores those levels. She calls herself the Fibonacci queen, and she goes way overboard with the Fibonacci's, but it apparently works for her. If you happen to run into her, the Fibonacci queen, definitely maybe go watch a couple of videos, but her more basic videos, and try not to get sucked into this having 30 different kinds of Fibonacci's on your chart. That's what she does. And okay. It becomes that thing, in my opinion. You draw enough lines and some of them are going to work, right?
Right. That's helpful. Thank you.
But the basic fibs, the basic Fibonacci retracements and the basic standard Fibonacci extensions, a lot of people watch them, and for that reason they work. Gotcha. All right.
I'll look her up for sure. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, no problem. And if I remember her name, actually, I've got a book that she wrote. I can go look at it and I'll shoot you a note later with her name.
Okay.
And I might even have a PDF of that book.
Is it Carolyn Borden?
Yes, that's the one.
Okay, got
it. All right. Ken says, thank you for Shalan. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly. Can you look at Facebook and CRM long-term investment as well? All right. All right, so Facebook, I'm gonna, you know what, I can't call it Meta. I just hate that name. So I'm just gonna call it Facebook forever. Hopefully that's okay with everyone.
No, that's okay with me.
I remember, you know what, part of what it is years ago, I had a friend, and he would say, oh, that's so meta. And he'd say it like in a very negative way, right? And it just kind of stuck with me. All right, so Facebook is messy. But it's like, look at this volume node right here. And where it found support, right? So that's important to consider. And we want to get that line on there. So let's get that line on there. Kind of comes from right there, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay. Let's zoom back in. So, we know why this is important now, right? It's done a ton of volume in this area, and that area has acted as support and resistance in the past. Now, when we zoom in on this a little more, we can see that on their earnings, they gapped up, and I marked, I've marked this gap up in with red here, and it's pretty much almost entirely filled that gap. So I think we can get rid of that, because that's close enough to a gap fill for me on that. So it's fulfilled the gap fill for all those people who say, it has to fill the gap. Well, it's pretty much filled the gap. So that's a little check mark for, can this turn up? And it looks like, it's obviously it's trying to turn up, but there is a downtrend here, and I'm going to I'm going to cut through those two candles and draw this downtrend like that. Okay. Because, you know, it went right up there, went up there nicely, strongly, and then pulled right back in. So next steps for this is get through this downtrend line, get through that 21-day moving average, and go attack this 50-day moving average, and then go attack resistance up there and maybe this pivot right here. So obviously there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of overhead resistance in this. You know, I wouldn't be ready to buy this just yet. Like, you know, a lot of other things we've looked at, we're seeing a bit of a bottoming process, maybe less so in Facebook, but so much resistance overhead and so much work to do. It does not seem like a good investment yet to me. And this is something where I would really want to study the fundamentals and see, you know, do the fundamentals say this is a good investment? And I suspect we're going to, you know, fundamentals are probably saying, it's still a little overvalued maybe. Although I'm pulling that out of a hat. I don't know that for sure, but that's my suspicion. So yeah, that's about it. All I've got for you for Facebook. CRM. That is quite a pullback in this. This was such a strong company. That pulled back 50% exactly. Wow. So it's come back. I mean, it's well below where it was pre-COVID. That's interesting. I'm surprised it's pulled back that far. So okay, let's look at a weekly on this one. Okay, that's where that line came from. So yeah, I mean, this has been in a strong uptrend essentially forever, right? It got hit in the the bear market in 2008. It got hit quite a bit there. How much did it pull back then? So off its highs here, whoops. Wow, 72% in the 2008. That's brutal. All right. So now, so it pulled back 72% that time. And this time we've pulled back 50%. What does a 72% pullback look like on this? Right down to here. I just don't see that happening at all. But there is a support level right there too. I mean, I suppose anything could happen, right? Let's get that in. It is kind of a bit of a no-brainer area, right? If it starts dropping these levels, but I mean, you've got all these other levels here. You've got a big level right there that it's got to get through first. You've got another kind of level right here would have to get through. So there is a lot of support on the way down. And then you've also got this little cluster right here. And also look at the volume node, right? You talked about that volume node in Facebook. We've got another really strong volume node here in CRM. But let's get this one right about here. Okay. There we go. We've got lots of downside levels on there off of the weekly chart. Let's move back into the daily. And yeah, okay. So yeah, we've broken that uptrend, but we're coming into one of the first levels off this pivot off the. Oops. This is the level I was looking for here. That goes back into the pre-COVID. Yeah, really surprising that it broke down through this 165 area. And it's this level it's stalled out at. Does that come from anywhere really? Yeah, I guess a little bit. Kind of from back over here. Yeah, that one lines up. Right there, there it is. No, that's not it. Sorry, I'm having trouble with this one. That's a bit of a weird level. It kind of sort of lines up with a lot of this price action from the past, but not quite. Okay. So what do we got? We got, we do have a bunch of levels, but, we've also seen this crash through a bunch of levels, right? So, there's no reason to believe that these levels, it may not crash through these. And actually, this sort of brings up a good point. With the crashing through these levels, it put in a bunch of these levels on the way up, when we were in a strong bull market. So, we shouldn't expect these to be as strong on the way down. However, some of the levels it's coming into now, it put those levels in a sideways market, right? In a less than bullish market for this stock. So we should expect these levels to be a little stronger than some of these levels it put in when it was moving quickly on the way up. So we can be fairly confident in some of these levels below here. But for now, what is the price action telling us? It's telling us, much like a lot of the other stocks we've seen today, that it's trying to put in a bottom. This one I like better than a lot of them. And I'm going to move this now that we're looking, zooming in right here. I'm just going to move that line up there because there is definitely a buyer at 155, I would say. You notice that anytime it actually cuts through 155, I'll move this line up to 155 exactly. There we go. Okay. Notice that I want to really zoom in. Notice at any time it gets through that 155, it gets bought immediately. It comes down as low as what, like 154.70. Definitely somebody holding this up here. So how long do they continue to hold it up? There's not a ton of volume going on when they do this. But so you could, if you're looking at an investment in this and you want to be aggressive, I'd say you could buy this anytime. You almost should have bought it. Today or yesterday, because you've got it made this sort of little tiny base right here, and that's not usually how I draw them, but good enough. Actually, no. Let me get rid of that. You had this little base right here, and it broke out of that. Kind of tried to break out yesterday. Definitely breaking out of this today. This would be an aggressive buy. But you could, if you did buy this here, you could put a stop below here, even though I know it's an investment and everything. But this is very, very risk defined. If you start your investment here thinking, okay, this is going to move up from here, and it doesn't, and it fails, and it continues to move down, well, if you put a stop just below here or just near the bottom of this little consolidation, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with stopping out of what's supposed to be an investment in a situation like this, where you're aggressive going in, and you're, when it breaks down below here, you're proven wrong because it's probably coming down to the next support level. So why not get out and wait and see what happens down at this level? And maybe you get another consolidation like that, and you try and get in there again. Eventually, you're going to get in at a really good price, and it will start moving up. And then you could buy every time it breaks out one of these, what will be resistance levels, right? That is a good way to sort of scale into your investments. Because right now, the way this looks is, yeah, this is looking good, but we do have some resistance overhead right here. We've got this 21-day moving average. We've got this little bit of resistance, and we've got stronger resistance right over here. Maybe we want to move that line up to there a little bit. That looks better. Coming into this 189, 190 area, or sorry, 185 area. We've definitely got some stronger resistance. So yeah, if you believe that two things, this is the bottom of the market, that things will start moving up from here, and they will move up quickly. And the fundamentals of this company are good. The valuations are no longer stretched, or the valuations are looking good. Then this may very well be a time to get into CRM. But for me, it's looking a little bit early. So hopefully that was helpful. And Shalana has also asked what are your thoughts on the Google and Amazon split that will happen in July? Right. Okay, so I have forgotten the details of the Google split. I think it's 10 for 1. Is that right? Somebody maybe want to type into the, okay, I see Marvin nodding his head. It's 10 for 1. I mean, it does make it easier for some people to get into these positions, although most people have access to fractional shares.
It's actually
And most brokers. Not all brokers have fractional shares yet, but they will one day. So you do open this up a little bit to a wider pool of retail investors, I guess, when you do a split, especially a 10 for 1. If you bring this down to $200, Google's 20 for 1, so they're going to come down to like $100, very near $100. Okay. For a lot of people, buying a $2,000 stock is something that they're just not comfortable with, even if they can buy fractionals. So it does open up the pool of retail investors. And during the bull market, when Tesla did this, I mean, people bought up Tesla like crazy, right? But now when people are announcing these splits, it's not doing anything. Shop is, I can't remember when Google announced the split, but no doubt it's gone down since they announced the split. Shop is another one that, fell, I think here, was it? Oh no, that was earnings. Maybe it was here that they announced their split. And it did nothing for them. So yeah, that belief that, the split is bullish for the stock, I think that's going away a little bit. So that's sort of my opinion on the Google and Amazon splits. Maybe slightly helpful to them, but it's not going to be as helpful as it used to be. Like when Tesla did theirs. Okay. Does anybody have any symbols? I think if there's no more symbols, I think we're going to pack it in here. We'll go back to here and we'll see what we got coming up. So, interesting. Apparently, obviously, I'll be doing my briefing on Sunday, or if I'm lazy, I'll do it on Monday. Actually, I might wait till Monday to do that, the weekend briefing, just to see if anything happens over, any big macro events that happen over the weekend. But apparently on Tuesday, Nick is doing a live mentor session. And then I will be probably doing, actually, I might take a break the following Thursday because I've already done 3 Thursdays in a row. So I'm probably due for a little break. I think I might take next Thursday off, and we'll get the calendar together for June and see what's going on. So that is everything for today. Hope everybody enjoyed this, and hope you have a good Friday. Let's have a nice big up day again tomorrow. I think we all deserve that. And thanks, Ken. And I hope all of you enjoy your long weekend. It's not a long weekend it's not a holiday in Canada on Monday. We had our holiday this past Monday. So Canadian markets are open. So I don't know, I might go trade in the Canadian markets a little bit. We'll see. Although I rarely do anymore. But I should probably just take a day off from trading. What the heck? Why not? So yeah, everybody have a good long weekend, And we'll see you all next week. See you tomorrow and next week in the Discord. Thank you for coming.